What is going on, everybody? Justin Thomas here with Before the Dust Settle, and one hell of an episode. And I am excited not only for how great of an episode that is, but about the great guests that we got
Justin
right
Thomas
now.
here with
I've got
Before
the
the Dust
wonderful
Settle.
HaxDogma, of course. But first, I want to introduce our special guest host, Axel from the Westworld TheoryCast. How you doing, brother?
Good. I'm great, man. Thank you very much for having me. I'm super pumped to be on here with both of you. And wow, this was quite an episode to digest, and my brain is like on fire, baby. I'm ready to talk about some Westworld.
We're gonna talk about it. I don't know how much we're gonna get right on this episode. There's a lot to digest. There's a lot of dust, but that's why we got one of the probably ranked number one right now in the rankings for sure as SEO goes. Hex Dogma, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. Yeah, a great episode, and anyone that's coming into the stream right now, I just want to remind you, use hashtag Westworld to highlight questions you have. Kind of lets us know what you want addressed specifically. We'll of course read through everything, but just if there is something that we're missing, use this, and we can search the page and easily come to it. But yeah, with that, introductions are done. Let's see.
Take it away.
Let's see. Where to start? Let's not start at the beginning, because the only thing that I can possibly think about right now is, oh my God, how many times can the Man in Black be shot in his physical human body before he stops moving?
Yeah, how far has medical science come? I'm gonna pass this on to Axel in a minute here, but I'm no doctor. But
Yeah, they're stretching credulity, as they say, on that one, and also toying with us as far as MIB being a host. I mean, I think that that's definitely the sense that I get, is that we know that the showrunners and the writers and they know what we're all doing here, talking theories, having fun, talking about the show, and I think that they kind of fit that in there. And yeah, he took quite a few bullets. I think, what did he take? 4 bullets?
I'm pretty sure it was 5.
Okay. Well,
I'm
yeah,
pretty
that's
sure.
and at his age, but I'll tell you, they really he's looking haggardly.
Dude,
Well,
when he was coming around the building, all I kept thinking is, "Oh my God, dude, this old man, this poor guy."
Yeah.
but that's an interesting point from Axel here, and that's not an angle I even took from it. But now looking back, are they implying that he could be a host because he's taking bullets like one?
I really don't. I don't
I
want him
don't
to be a
like it.
host
I don't
so
like
bad.
it.
But at the same time, I can't ignore that they shot him for a reason, and
Yeah.
it comes down to, we're an advanced futuristic society in which the healing laser gun exists, right? So
Yeah.
at some point, we have to suspend the reality of it to sci-fi it up. But I don't know. They shot him in. I'm pretty sure they shot him in every limb, and then once in the chest.
In the stomach too,
In
and
the
also
stomach?
Maeve didn't even attempt to control him, so I guess that could kind of rule that host thing out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm not sold on it or anything. I just think that the idea is present with him, and especially in this episode, and perhaps it could be foreshadowing, not a reality now, as a result of his damage. But
Oh, absolutely. And that's what this is all about. We bring up points, and if you've watched it, you know that, especially me, like, I hate thinking anybody's a host. I freak out. I get pissed about it because I think it's going to ruin the story. But you can't ignore things like you're saying either. We have to put it up. It's not definitive that Emily is not a host. Do I want her to be a host? Fuck no. It's not definitive that the MIB is going to be a host. Do I want to be a host? Fuck no. But hey, unless we see, it's like, unless you see the body, and with the return of Ford, which I'm sure Hax is going to bring us to, we can't rule anything out.
Yeah, I mean that's all it comes down. I think like the significance of the maggots is where it comes in. Like, I don't know. So I mean, with that, Ford is back, right? And the way that they introduce Ford being back into the real world is really good. I mean, it's essentially nothing that we haven't seen before. In a way, the hosts are conformed to believe that their programming is, or I'm sorry, the entire bicameral mind system is them hearing their programming, which is Arnold, which is Ford, and then developing it into their own voice. So we've kind of seen it before, but the manifestation of it in real life is like I mean, it was a sight. Seeing Anthony Hopkins shoot a P90 or whatever the gun is. I mean, I don't think it gets better than that.
Yeah, and I think that now he really wasn't shooting it. I think that the cinematography was meant. And Axel, I want your advice on this because you have actual experience more than me in this. I think that was more like just like a cinematic thing to show that it was Bernard shooting it, but it was Anthony Hopkins, Dr. Ford, forcing him to shoot it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's what Hax is saying, right, buddy?
Yeah, that exactly.
Yeah, I think you understood it. Yeah, definitely.
No, oh yeah, I didn't think Hax didn't understand it. I'm not gonna say Hax doesn't understand anything, but at this point, yeah, no.
I just think in Westworld, it's good that we clarify because I've talked to some people and we've gone down a rabbit hole for like 10 minutes, and then I go back to the beginning, and they're like, "Wait, I was talking about something totally different, right?"
Yeah. No, if we're questioning each other, we'll yell.
Yeah.
The terminology in the show is definitely a key point of it.
Yeah, but I think, yeah, definitely I like the way they did that, which was kind of like a slide crossfade into each other. And I thought that was really interesting the way they showed that and that whole concept. I mean, but in essence, we've kind of seen this concept with Wyatt and Dolores, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there is, they keep on. That's what I really love about this season is they're not recycling plot. They're advancing it. They're like taking it and making it like 2.0, so we've seen some things before, like we've seen a replica person. It's Bernard, but now we see new type of replica people. You know what I mean? So they keep on taking it up a level. And so I thought that was really interesting that he's kind of like now a ghost in Bernard, you know?
Yeah, I think that maybe Hex, do we want to talk about I think that brings us to like we should clarify what's going on with how until the cradle's gone, which we'll get to, but let's start where the cradle is still a thing and how Dr. Ford is existing. I thought was a really clever way with the way he brought them back, because I would not really be in for him coming back in some other form like other than this, because it would have took away from his sacrifice. So it made sense, like we were talking about in the pre-show, that he was able to survive because his artificial mind was an artificial body in an artificial system. So it wasn't rejecting. It's like an organ type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was like existing in this, but now he has transcended and he has kind of taken away the free will of Bernard for a while. And this goes back again to like how Dolores has done this, even how Maeve has done this and stuff like that. What do you guys think about that? And what do you guys think about now with the cradle being gone? What it means? Because how I took it was like they were kind of harvesting the cradle in case, like Charlotte Hale says, in case a catastrophic event happens. That's why we need this. So I took it as like if the world ends, they can go exist in the Matrix. How far off am I? We're gonna play how far off is Justin on this.
I think I'll start on this one. I think that it really, I don't know. So it made a lot of sense for Dolores to go after it like she did, and I think this is something we talked about. But the purpose of the cradle, right, is to just deploy another Dolores if one goes bad. So the sacrifice of the cradle, of what can be a chain or what could be a backup in case her physical body is destroyed. It takes away from the individuality of it, right? So it's all about identity in this, and the sacrifice of that, everybody gets one life. It establishes is more human, and ultimately is her drive to do so. I think that Ford being in the cradle is definitely a really good way to bring him back as well. And now that he's in a Bernard mind, sharing space, I guess. I don't know. I mean, do we have to consider that everything from the point? So I mean, okay. So there's two parts at play here. So when the Delta team arrives and the shit hits the fan, he now has this Ford persona in his mind. But do we have to extend that all the way to the present when he wakes up on the beach, and an extension when he's being interrogated by Strand and Charlotte? And if so, is that still a manipulation? Like he's still playing the strings and still has something to say, or do we have to consider that he is no longer with Bernard at that point?
That is a great point, and I was thinking about that too. And what that makes me think about, and this is definitely related to that, is the idea that when I was talking before about kind of going 2.0, it's almost as if perhaps Ford is bootstrapping his own consciousness through the use of Bernard. Like, he said he couldn't leave because he would degrade within days, but now he's inside of Bernard. Does that kind of state
Oh.
where he's at, so he can use that as a bootstrapping mechanism to get back into a body? That leads me to answering your initial question, which is, I think it's safe to kind of assume that by the time we get to episode 8, 9, 10, they could be progressed enough to where the stuff that happened, that we're seeing happening on the beach and all, so much has happened. That's why it's hard for me to answer whether or not Ford would still be inside him, or perhaps that is Ford.
Yeah.
Perhaps overwhelmed the personality inside of there and he's pretending to be Bernard, you know? So it's like, I don't know. I start to kind of go back and forth with how far I can take it, because if you were to ask me, a couple episodes ago, I might not have thought that the story kind of was as advanced as it is at this point, which I'm really enjoying about this season.
Yeah.
It's frustratingly enjoying. Milt K, our moderator, and a good friend of mine who's gonna come on the cast. He's a geophysicist that I pull out from my crazy Game of Thrones theories. Asked, where is Sector 16 Zone 4? And Vanity Fair has just informed me that Costa, that's where the Valley Beyond is. That's where Costa mentioned it was. So that's where the cluster of hosts were, and that's the Valley Beyond. So he's telling them it's in the Valley Beyond, because at the end he asks, where's Abernathy? And he says Sector 16, Zone 4, or Zone, whatever, you get it. I just said it. So it's in the Valley Beyond. But yeah, it's just like, oh my God, it's like a quantum leap, like to where is Ford now? Like, what if there's no Cradle for, and again, I mean, maybe it's like, because I guess he's not really trying. I don't see Ford as trying to live forever, because we all talk about the sacrifice that Ford made, and that really means a lot to the story to me. You know what I mean? And to take away from that sacrifice would be not too great for me as far as storytelling goes. But I think that, him guiding Bernard, but again, you come with that heavy-handed coercion, so many fingerprints on these hosts that you have to come to the point in saying, well, I hate to devalue their sentience, but it's like, man, there's fingerprints all over them. I mean, Ford is literally taking control of Bernard to help. Same with Dolores. She's doing the same thing that Ford is doing with Bernard, just in a different way. You know what I mean? Because they think they can't survive.
Yeah.
So they get their fingerprints all over them. So there's that duality, and it's like, so it brings up all these questions, like I brought up before, and I just brought up before here, that if you really wanted to have a debate about Westworld, it would just be a shit show if you wanted to like try to prove your point perfectly right, because it's it's theological, philosophical, bioethics, everything factors into this show, that it's just like, damn, how many questions? You know what I mean? You can't really have anything definitive.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, I don't know if I agree that him perhaps wanting to make it to the other side of being like I don't know what you guys call it, I call it a hybrid, is lessening the sacrifice, because I always think of it going both ways. Like, whatever he does to get there could help the hosts to go the other way, right?
Yeah,
So
that's true.
that's what I kind of think in my mind, that his methodology, though it's coarse and deadly, is eventually to give the hosts the freedom that he desires for them, right? And I think that he kind of sacrificing himself, putting him through the ultimate transition, that's a sacrifice unto itself, And
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys, if I may.
Sure.
No, you can't have it. No, yeah, go ahead.
What did you think about the fact that Ford again reiterates that they have not perfected this?
I mean, I think I was gonna add on to what you guys were just saying, but I think it goes full circle. It entirely means that there's not others like I could have sworn. I mean, there's a lot that I now need to dissect in retrospect, but my assumption was that there was definitely more, and the number of outposts, the number of brains, the number of technicians working all on this secret project, all dedicated to James Delos seems insane. But Ford,
Me too. That's what I'm thinking to myself too. Like maybe he doesn't. Maybe there's stuff along the lines of your great Charlotte video hacks.
oh, thank you.
Maybe there's stuff along that he doesn't know. We can't always assume that he knows everything, right? Like at the end of last season, we found out that he was controlling everything. Maybe at the end of this season, we find out he knew very little about other things that were occurring.
Yeah, and
You talking about Dr. Ford?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My only argument with that is it just seems like, I mean, the trope is he is even though I've related him to a drunken guy in Atlantic City playing roulette with how things had to turn out for him in season 1, if you really look at it realistically, but he is the chess master. I know the suspension of disbelief. And I think that, because he mentioned it, he said James Delos, would rather die than have a bad investment. So, like, again, he sandbags. Ford sandbags. He watches other people try to do things forever, fail, and then he succeeds. So I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, there's definitely something to it, but we have to consider that we have never seen Ford not be on the ball. I think it's more of a question of the ethics of it, like how Tandy Newton brings it up about Maeve to Dolores when she looks at Teddy. She goes, "Is that what you're doing for him?" I think it's more of an ethical question that they're asking us about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, but I still think there's a possibility that that there's more going on with Charlotte and some other I'm just obsessed with that from the Lost days and stuff where like
yeah.
No antagonists.
Right? You think it's just the others, and then there's Jacob. You think it's Jacob, and then you find out about the aunt, right? Like the levels keep increasing, and I think that's a storytelling technique that would work with Westworld, and that's why I really like Hax's video, because it kind of like made my mind think, this is interesting. There's other levels, like it could be within the Delos board. It could be that she's with another company or another government, right? We saw those Chinese troops come onto the island,
absolutely. I think a third party adds a lot to it. I like Hax's theory. I think a third party adds a lot to it, whether or not it's this party, because they seem to be all dead. But I think it has to be something, you're right, other than host. You know what I mean? I think it does have to be something more, whether it's, exactly what Hax said or not. But the third party, I think, has to exist. I think you guys are right. I mean, it can't just be host versus Delos.
Yeah, so I mean,
for 5 seasons.
This episode kind of, man, I'm so sad.
You have great theories and they just kill them.
It seems like every single episode, the episode after it's just like something happens, and I'm like, well, okay, I'm glad I put that out there. I'm not completely ready to axe both the Cradle theory and the Charlotte third party theory. The interactions between Stubbs and Elsie kind of show that he's like remembering back to that conversation where he talks to Ford and her about a third party. She quickly puts the device back down, and now he's like questioning, so what are you doing here? What is this data? And so I was really confident at the start of the episode. I was like, oh my god, that's it. This is coming to light finally. And then the whole interaction with Strand and his acknowledgement of the data and really what it's used for, I was just like, well, we either have to assume that Strand is also in on the deal, or theory goes out the window. So I don't know. I think that the third party still could come into play. I do think the Cradle could still come into play because of a manipulation with, I don't know. I mean, it showed that he was being interrogated at some point. When they do the flashback and it zooms out and it's like, oh my gosh, everything we just watched was him being tortured, trying to get information out.
An interesting quote there is from Romeo. Of course, it's Shakespeare, but the quote goes along, the end of that goes along with luring of a daughter, using the daughter to lure Romeo. So I don't know if that has any indication with Dolores or not, but obviously he just likes to quote Shakespeare. I mean, everything that comes out of Ford's mouth too is some literary reference, but I pulled up the quote. It's from Romeo and Juliet. It's actually from Peter, but I wouldn't read too much into it, but of course they're not going to have him say something real like, this fucking hurts, stop doing this. But yeah, I mean, it's
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Hacks, that's an interesting when you were kind of putting it together there. I still, the interrogation of Bernard. I still think that there's something past this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still feel like that. I feel like the point where he is with, and I keep on harping on it because I love this scene. It's like the most obsessed scene for me when he's with Elsie and he says, "Wait, I'm not here. I remember this," you know? And then you have Charlotte saying to him, "The memories you have and the memories you were given," right?
Mm,
So it makes me think that I still think that we're gonna find out that there is some sort of interrogation there, that he is somehow fighting against those looking to get this key from him inside his own mind. Or perhaps they have, I'm not convinced that the cradle is the only simulation that they have.
yeah.
I think that there
Yeah.
could be a portable simulation that they could plug him into. They could, there, you know what I mean? Like something like that. Who knows? A satellite. I don't know how technical it could get, but I still think that that's why I'm just a little bit, my initial reaction from this episode is I'm just getting this feeling that they're going to be like way farther down the rabbit hole than we imagine by the time we get to episode 10. So I'm not utterly convinced that everything we've seen thus takes place, that's the main interrogation there where
Well,
Hank kind of going over it with them.
in the teaser trailer, if we want to talk about a third party, I mean, technically, the Man in Black, he's not going for that information. He's going for something else. And now we see in the teaser trailer, it looks like Ford at the gala passed him a card, possibly a swipe card to go through a door. So we have to figure that in as well. I think that the interrogation is happening with Bernard. I argue that Carl Strand is not a strong enough antagonist to be the one that's doing the main. I feel like we are seeing the interrogation. I mean, what would you call what we're seeing? It's an interrogation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
So,
I just think that it maybe isn't the one. I feel like Bernard had more control, is what I.
like, you're saying there's more layers.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I
got you.
think when we saw him, especially in that Elsie scene, he was attempting to control his own mind in a way that seemed to me in in retaliation against something else. You know, that he was trying to kind of dictate what was happening. But I don't know. I think it could, now that they've taken the cradle away, it's like, where would that be? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? How could they be kind of accessing him?
I think it's important to try to like verify what the cradle was, because what did they say, Hacks? They said that the hosts were the control and the guests were the variable, right?
Yeah.
So we need to determine what they're trying to save and why they're trying to save it.
Well, that was
You know what I mean?
when Bernard said that, he was talking about the park.
But that's what the information that they want is from the park. All that
Oh,
information.
correct. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Exactly. Right. So they can.
So how is that useful for them? To create a virtual world? Do you think that's the goal? What's the end game?
To live.
Yeah, I mean to live forever. I think okay, so going full circle. So I think that Ford's upload to Bernard is still going to deteriorate. I think that we can assume that he is ahead of them, even though he wasn't working on this project. It's kind of like his character flaw. He has the answers, and I think maybe there is so many Bernards because he's working for, like when we see them uncover that we see him working toward these long-term viable hosts, or viable long-term bodied hosts, because he says that Dolores built his mind in this cradle, right? Like going through the simulation. So I fully believe that's exactly why we're seeing those hosts. But the point is the term long-term viability. This is something that when William said it to James Delos, it was like, oh, so they understand that they're not hitting that immortality mark, but in two years they could hit a long-term viable host. Means that you could just redo the simulation, put your mind into a new body, and continue going for X amount of time. And it's not exactly immortality, but I mean it's extending your life. It's
It's trying not to go to hell if you believe in it, I guess.
Yeah. So I do want to wrap around back to a question. However, okay, here we go. After watching this episode, this is from Deanna D. After watching this episode, do any of you question any theories you previously had? First of all of them, about what will happen with the Men in Black, William, and Dolores.
Axel?
I'm trying to think, because my methodology in theorizing is to just throw shit against the wall and see what sticks later, because I just like talking about it. So I tend to not get wedded to things, and kind of keep an open mind into it. But if there's anything that surprised me in the episode, and theory wise, is when Ford said that they hadn't perfected it yet. I thought that he was going to say they're all over the place or something. You know what I mean? I thought that scene when William/MIB says to James Delos exactly what Hax just said, that, in 2 years or so they could have perfected. I wasn't sure whether that scene took place 2 years ago or whether it was when he was at the park in season 1, so that kind of that is making me rethink things.
In the way he said it, with a good point, because Anthony Hopkins, he said not yet. The way he said it, it implies to me, I don't know if I'm off here, that he is actively trying. It wasn't just like, oh, they didn't get it just yet. He's like, no, we haven't got there yet. Like, we, meaning him too. So he's involved in this process. I always do try to look at this story in a little bit of a broader sense, because it essentially because I want to get to like some moments with the MIB and Lawrence, and how, we saw the invoking of free will. And again, we saw Maeve. These are important things to talk about, choosing not to, well, she couldn't control him, which was interesting, but she still made him, coerced him, but he used his free will. But, it's about the disenfranchised. I mean, you could do this show without the tech. You could do this show just about slavery. You could do this show about, Russia, pre-World War II, you know what I mean? With Serbs and all that. So it's, we have to look at it. It's like, how are these people going? Because we see sympathizers. We see Felix. We see Lee, who do you guys think he's going to redemption path again? Hiding. I think he's going to hopefully save Tandy Newton and stuff like that. Maybe. So, I mean, like, I think we get caught in these rabbit holes, and especially right after the show, it's so hard to figure out the tech and all that. But we have to look at the bigger story, what it's about. It's about the uprising of people that are oppressed. And look at it in a slightly different way.
So back to the actual question, though. I think the interaction between William and Dolores, still bound to happen. I was so incredibly shocked that MIB came across Maeve. As soon as she came into the house, and then this scene panned out, and it was Man in Black coming into the same town, I was like, oh my god, oh my god, why is this happening? So it ultimately, I think it was great. I thought it would have been Dolores that would have been the one to kill William. No, I don't think William's dead. 5 shots in all. I don't think he's dead.
Yeah, you don't die from that.
Yeah. 5 shots in the body. You think you can take that, man?
Yeah, well, let's find out. Didn't 50 Cent take 8?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to, but I mean, I think it brought it full circle, because do you think that event do you think Ford made that event happen?
I mean, it starts where you began, dude. He came back to the park this last time, and that was the first thing he did. Execute that little girl. So
when we're on questions, and I'm not going on a rant, let's talk about it was 9. Thank you, John Haymaker. 50 Cent took 9, and he used to be successful, so good for him. So a lot of people are wondering about Ghost Nation. Ghost Nation is very difficult to talk about as well. What are their motives? Do they have good intentions for the host?
So I'll do this one. So in my last video, I cut this 2-minute speaking point out, but it is so clear. So the last time Ford and Stubbs interact is when they're with Charlotte Hale after discovering Teresa's body. He goes, "We need to refine QA's access," and he, my goodness, Stubbs voices concern that we're going to be shorthanded, and he goes, "Don't worry, Stubbs. We can automate most of the security features." And then the next time we see him is getting tackled by Ghost Nation and thus being protected. I think that's all it is. They're puppets of Ford. I mean,
But are they? They're not leading them to the hub. They're leading them to the valley.
I don't know what the hub is. What do you mean?
Like they're not leading them to the Mesa hub, like where we just saw the
Oh,
big battle.
No.
They're leading them to the valley. I'm assuming, and I'm assuming that the Man in Black is trying to get to the valley.
Yeah.
I don't
why?
know. I don't know where they're leading them, but I'm with. I feel the same way. I feel like Ghost Nation is. We had some great feedback from one of our listeners, Bill Cavo. It's Ghost Nation, Ghost in the Machine. They're, it goes along with Ford, and they're enacting this plan. He's putting the pieces together. I'm not so sure that they're going to the valley, because I think that that's for whatever Dolores is doing. But I think that maybe maybe similar, hearkening back to what Teddy had said, kind of putting them in the barn, leaving them, getting them out of the way, leading people out so things can take place. Maybe he felt as though enough people had been killed already, and that like it had to progress now.
So speaking with that, in Ghost Nation, someone brings up the other question about Felix and Sylvester, as well as Sizemore, and already being with the Delos security troop. I put in my video that this wouldn't be an instant thing, that there would kind of be some interpersonal conflict, because Felix would know about this and then have to make the conscious decision to tell Maeve or not. I was way off, because they instantly just fast forward that whole thing to him not even meeting him, already being on the bandwagon to rescue other people. So that is one very efficient dispatch.
Well, even Littlefinger has his jetpack in Game of Thrones. Don't feel too bad there, Hax. It happens. Yeah, they set a pace and then they fuck it all up. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of had to happen. Let's just throw it out there. I'm assuming that Emily is going to save the Man in Black. How do you guys feel about that? I'm assuming that's how that's going to go down.
Yes, I was waiting for them to cut in a quick scene where he gets his gun or something and he's ready, and then she's dead.
I thought it was a good switch, because I thought for sure it was her gun, but then it was Lawrence. So
I thought it was her gun too. Yeah.
Excellent bait and switch. Excellent storytelling.
That was great, and it gave him a good opportunity to play with that whole idea of Maeve and kind of awakening, and what freedom means, and whether those memories that the hosts have are valuable to them. I really like all that stuff. I mean, I see here and there in the fandom, and people kind of complain about the more slower, dramatic stuff this season, but I really enjoy that. And I think that that's really what the show's about, like you were saying before. That's how can we care about these characters if we don't understand them? And you understand characters through their actions and through their decisions, right? And that was a really important scene. And I have to say, after this episode, I mean, I'm liking the Dolores thing is kind of, it's coming back. The theatricality of the earlier in the season, the delivery was kind of not really getting me. But now I'm starting to understand through her interactions, what she's doing there. And she's seeming to progress, like she said with Maeve, that she was going to let her make that decision.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's beautiful about it. And I think that's what's great about the show, is because that's why I love doing it with Hax. Hax is more on the tech side. I like to focus more on like what you were just talking about. We can't devalue certain people's decisions, even if they want to stay in a matrix system or in the park. It's all about that. I don't want to, not philosophical, but the allegory of the cave is a perfect metaphor for this show. You know what I mean? And it's very interesting, and it's supposed to make us think. What you just said was beautiful. It's supposed to make us feel. It's supposed to make us question them. And it's supposed to make us question ourselves. In a show that can put across, it is a show that can put across a valid social situation of disenfranchised and put it in how entertaining was this fucking episode? This was a shoot 'em up fucking episode that still made us think about actual philosophical ideas. Find another show that fucking does that. Find another show that does it.
You know what I couldn't shake though?
What?
Is Angela. All I kept thinking is
so hot though.
All I kept thinking is, how is that person who actively just fought her team and just killed and had people killed, how is he slowly walking up to her like? I mean, okay, it goes into seduction, and she's the perfect person, and I'm just like, dude.
He had slick back hair. Anybody with slick back hair deserves to die. Anybody with slick back hair like that deserves to die.
You know, as soon as I saw him, I said, "Yep, he's dead. 100% he dies." And I'm glad that it was her blowing up the up the cradle like she did. I think
she's gone.
Yeah, dude, she's gone, dude. That's it.
No. I don't care about the
That's
philosophical
it,
anymore. She's so hot. What do you think about that, Axel? Did you buy the seduction? Is that good storytelling?
I don't know. I mean, they definitely the casting on that and that guy's look, you know, and they laid the groundwork for it for when he shoots Clementine. They did an extended look, like a close up on him, where he kind of looked like bothered that he was killing a woman, or that he was kind of also kind of turned on by her and then didn't want to shoot her at the, you know.
Yeah.
And so they did a job there. Whether or not, you know, I mean, I think the scene put across again this idea of the host turning to their program to manipulate people, right? That they were built to manipulate people.
Well, you do what you know too. You know, you do what you're good at.
Exactly. She looked at him and she was like, all right, you know, this is an incel.
Yeah, I mean,
second-rate Steven Seagal.
Going back to that, she was a greeter, kind of interpret people as they come off or come to the first visit here. So yeah, I guess it makes sense. But
in good mention on that, they did slightly foreshadow it, so it wasn't as hard. It wasn't as heavy-handed. They did with Clementine. Good mention, Axel.
I was like, why are they spotlighting this guy we just met? There's a reason for this.
They should have done something in the interview. They're like, "Are you gonna get really turned on during the course of heavy action?" And he's like, "Absolutely." They're gone. You second-rate Steven Seagal. So
I think. Well, I think the other part is that she wasn't wearing her thorn crown, right?
Oh, I know.
So why was it there at all? And I'm not bashing the decision to make this, but it was a very Jesus symbol, right? The resurrector himself. I mean, yeah, she just kind of sacrificed everything to provide every single host with an identity, but at the same time, I am not sold that we're not going to see her again, because she is this Christ-like figure, and for whatever reason we're being shown this, and then suddenly she doesn't have this crown thorn, and then a self-sacrifice to provide for her people. I don't know.
Joanne, no, you're on to something, because Joanna, my moderator for and good friend from Amino, she's got a few questions that are back here, and she does say Jesus does come back and destroy the world with fire. I'm telling you, the place burns, and she's been relating that to Ford in MIB. So I mean, come on, how many biblical references and symbolism do we need? I mean, crucifixion. It was crazy with Cradle with the symbolism. How do you take that there, Axel? Do you like the theological side of it? Do you like the religion being brought into it, or you think it's heavy-handed?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I've been, I've studied religion most of my life, and I think I like what I like the way they're dealing with it, and they're discussing it in a way of kind of progression and growth, looking at it more of kind of, 3,000 feet of how it affects all humans, right? Like thinking and perception of the world. But as far as Angela goes, I don't know. Listen, guys, I'm not convinced that there's not another backup. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
I mean, and we just don't know. They've shown us so many times that they'll go back and we think something happened, and then they go back and show us that something else happened in between what we thought happened, So who knows? All we know, Teddy, Dolores, and Angela could have backups sitting at Sweetwater.
So Vanessa Cole brought this up in the pre-stream, and I didn't think about this at all until she brought it up. But the idea that Ford is running this entire thing through a simulation, right? To kind of predict predict like the
Yes.
what happens with Delos coming in and being an invading force. If it all ends up being that would be the most insane thing. And I know, Justin, I know you're not going to like that because you think
that is the equal to the Bran Stark theory of him having everything in Game of Thrones a dream. How do you people like that? Nobody likes that, right?
He is definitely the Night King, but I do I do think that it's plausible, man. I just don't know.
It's all possible. That's what it. Joanna brings up a really good point. I want to bring up Westworld, Valley Beyond equals Sea, Red Sea, Moses, Dolores, let my people go. So another, theological reference there. And that's good. Like Axel's saying, you can't really approach this topic without religion, because whether you're an atheist, whether you're agnostic, whether you're a Catholic, whatever, whether you're a Muslim, that's a part of a lot of people's lives and a lot of the way they define who they are and how they put themselves at the top of the food chain because they were divinely made. You know what I mean?
Speaking of divinity, let's go ahead and talk about Maeve. So
there we go.
One of the questions comes in so Maeve cannot control hosts that have gained consciousness. If that's true, Ghost Nation peeps are conscious? ? Anyone want to start?
We've talked a little bit about this on the Westworld TheoryCast, and I don't know if there's enough evidence yet to say what Maeve can and cannot do with her powers, because it also seems to have to do with when she chooses to use them. Yeah. So, and we're not getting a specific thing that's happening, So I don't know. I would hazard to guess that a host, would you think that just because they attain consciousness in some sort that they could shut off their Bluetooth? You know what I mean? Like they could stop her from coming in. That from a technical perspective, I could understand that, right?
And they are Ford's tool.
Yeah. So I don't, it's like they're not connected. But then in order to do that, would that sever the connection to the mesh network and their connection to other hosts, right? Like, because in essence, they could, once other hosts gain this ability, right? Because it must be innate within all of them, not just Maeve, then they can use it to their advantage. They could communicate, like imagine in battle or something like that, right?
Yeah.
They could all see through each other's eyes.
It seems like Ghost Nation could possibly Hex. I think that they have good intentions, believe it or not, for the hosts. I truly believe that. I don't think that they're leading them to a slaughter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, so my goodness, specifically about Maeve in that interaction, I think that, man, I don't know. I do think that if Lawrence is one of the hosts that can obtain consciousness or is on the maze, and that's kind of the important of him being his sidekick, is I mean, it has to be some kind of preventable thing, because if not, we have to assume that Maeve does have the ability to just stop any conflict with any character like Ford, and thus the reason that I thought that they would kill him off. So I do think that she's not going to be able to fully control hosts that are on this maze or on the journey to consciousness, and I don't know, but at the same time, because she brings up the idea of a memory, and he does witness memories, and before, outside of, it was only hinted before that they had a previous conversation about her daughter or his daughter. So I don't know if it's confirmation that she is actively using a command, or it's not going like she wanted, meaning that it's only applicable to hosts that aren't on the journey.
You tried a different method. So she tried to actually, and she couldn't control him. So then she tried to just kind of use his own memories against him, knowing how powerful they would be.
Yeah, and Ghost Nation has always been on the outskirts. They've always been the outliers. They don't. Everything about them is different. Like they have I had my crackpot theory that I guess is probably wrong, because I don't think the those drone hosts are going to play a big part. But I thought that the way for them to achieve their sentience or get on the road, because I don't like even using the word sentience, was when they would undo the brain, and they would, since they don't verbally communicate, they would see that symbol, and it would like have some code that would make them, go for like, just like the violent delights. In the first season, that was my crackpot theory, that it would work like that. So if they opened up a brain of a ghost nation, it would activate them as the violent delights did. But the ghost nation is just, it's hard to explain. Like I said before, like I know everything doesn't need to be PC, but I find it hard to believe, because with Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, they're very PC, that they would have Native Americans as just brutal murderers and savages. And I'm not saying everything on my level needs to be like that, but we do need to look at the creators of this show, and they're pretty PC people. But it does seem like they're pretty much fucking savages. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about them, to be honest.
Yeah, I think altogether, I think they're a tool. Let me see.
That's
I think
rude.
There was one. I don't know. I think
No, you're right. I'm joking, bro.
with the trailer. I mean, yeah. So with the trailer of the next episode, it kind of discusses the individual progression of the main Ghost Nation person, who I forget how to pronounce his name, but the same one that was with Angela all those years ago, and kind of the main one now. The other thing that we haven't seen is also Logan, right? In the very beginning of all this, we see a Ghost Nation on a horse riding up to a naked Logan after he was left there by William, assumingly. So the fact that it's been so long and we haven't seen him, and the only other time that he was referenced is, oh, he's dead, don't think about him. I really kind of think that we should think about him, and I kind of really think that that's the point. I mean, the magician's assistant to look over here, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead. Oh yeah, and we're not going to show you the scene until the very end because maybe the third party is Logan's company, or some crazy thing like that.
Yeah, I mean, Logan, it was, it was very, I love the scene, the first scene, and I put it in my timeline video, which, yes, people, I think I screwed up on when Bernard was created. Sorry, but besides that, I think the calculations are decent. But that scene where he sees the host for the first time, he's like the Elon Musk. We never got that. I want to go to Axel after this because I know, he's got a lot of experience with, writing and all that. Like, I really thought that was good storytelling to show him in that light. You know what I mean? Because Logan was always the fuck off. He was always the douche. Like, he didn't care. He just wanted to have, like, bisexual threesomes all the time. But we saw him being genuinely inspired by this tech, right? You know what I mean? So I think that leaves the door open, Hax, for exactly what you're saying. You know, they developed him. They made us care. They made us care.
They made us care, dude. You can't just give him an off-screen death,
Don't give us feels and then give us an off-screen death.
I didn't see that. I usually don't watch the trailers. I caught by accident, I guess, the coming this season one. I thought it was something just for this episode, but I didn't see the next episode. So that's interesting to me. But yeah, they definitely look. We spent a lot of time with him last year, Yeah. So and why would you not go back to that well? And exactly as you're saying before, they've showed different sides of him, which is even more interesting, So that's a fascinating idea that Logan is the third party, maybe.
I mean, I can't rule it out. I think that
Logan and Emily teamed up.
Well, maybe he's not dead. Maybe he didn't die of an overdose.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things I said in the Cradle video, that maybe it was Logan providing that location, because essentially the wife figured out what William was up to, and it ultimately destroyed her. So how did she figure it out, and who would have been the driving force to kind of sabotage William's marriage? The person who lost the most from William, which would be Logan. So yeah, I mean,
yeah, he witnessed the experience. He's the only one to go tell her. So you're right. And again, and I kind of hate things like this because it's like the dialogue was he had an overdose, he's gone, and it's like, and I'm with you. We didn't see a body, and they didn't say he's dead, but just like as from a writer's perspective, which again I'm just right. Amateur bullshit, but whatever. I mean, they just didn't write he had an overdose, so he died. They put he had an overdose, he's gone. So I mean, it does seem like he's dead, though. You know what I mean? I hate the nitpick, but I really that's one of those things. I really like the idea that he's alive, though. So I kind of want to go against it. I go against my gut feeling. I'm like, oh, well, they didn't really say it, though, even though I've argued with people online. And like, that jackass is turning. It makes me want to have it because he has the passion. It showed passion. But again, it would make sense from a storytelling sense to have us feel for him right before he dies. I mean, look at The Walking Dead, a terrible fucking show. But it happens all the time. As soon as they make somebody likable, they kill them. You know what I mean? So it's not really like that rare of a thing. I do want to bring up somebody. This one's for you, Hax. Could the yeah? Well, hey, you when you Huffington Post stops quoting you, they'll stop asking you tech. You know, you get tech questions, buddy.
You know,
Deal with it.
It's so funny, man. Like I feel like I do a decent job, and then it's always the one person that's just like, God, you're never right. You suck. And that's the only thing I think about. But
what are you talking about?
Nobody does this to be right.
I know.
No, it's good. It's good theory. Like, you know, I hated it.
Fun.
I hated it for the story, but I always said it was smart. That's what's good about it, because it's not bullshit. But this is why. No, don't try to dodge the question either. If you're self pity right there. What the hell's this? God damn it. No, somebody brought up that maybe that the imprint on Ghost Nation is like a firewall, and that's why it doesn't work. How about that?
I don't know.
But I mean, hey, that's a tech thing, right? It could work out.
It could work, but they're usually not
simple.
They're usually not some kind of Full Metal Alchemist amalgamation. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think the idea of it being a protective thing could be it. Really, my thoughts on this was that it was kind of just showing us who was a part of Ford's game. I still think it's important that the host that Dolores killed had it, which kind of goes against, or maybe it helps because they need a sacrifice to advance. Well, no, I'm sorry, that can't be right either, because now there is no bringing that person back.
Well, let's go to Axel on this. Axel, have they paid? Okay, because the maze is done for the host. We understand what it is from the first season. Now, in the first episode, they literally go and open up and make a point with the not too good of acting either. To be like, oh, I've never seen anything like this, and this guy's supposed to be a technical. So they have brought it back up, and they've done it pretty heavy-handedly. Have we gotten a payoff on that? That deserves a payoff once they reintroduce it, right?
Yeah, but I think that it could be metaphorical for the Ghost Nation having passed through the maze, So I think that would be enough payoff for me.
Yeah, but then it comes to, why would Dolores want to kill the people that have gone through the maze?
Okay. I thought you were just talking about the mark on the head, but in the inside of the skull.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting point. Why? Well, we still don't know. We don't even know if that's real.
Or if that's just something.
Why'd they reintroduce it? We need a payoff.
Yeah, I mean, that whole part, what you're talking about, I agree. We do need to understand why that event occurred, of course. But I think at this point, it's safe to say that they have introduced the idea of false memories. We have to believe that at some point we're going to see that, right? It's kind of like Chekhov's gun or whatever. It's like Chekhov's false memory.
Yes. You hang the gun on the wall in the first scene, the first act. You talk about it in the second. You better fucking fire that gun.
Got it. And you know what? They've been reliable about everything, right? They they laid a little thing about virtual reality last season. I'm going to go into the VR tank, and now we see the Cradle. So they know what they're doing. And I think that these little crumbs that they're lying for us, we've got, I'm not so sure that occurred. And if it did, we still don't know why. Have we seen, I'm trying to think of the interaction. Didn't Dolores, when Dolores and Maeve left have we seen Dolores interact with Ghost Nation?
Other than the little watching the feedback from the Cortex, no.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I'm trying to think of, because they came after she left and confronted Maeve that first time, right?
Yeah. I mean, there is continuity errors. Like, for example, remember how before Bernard went into the Cradle, for some reason Elsie couldn't, turn off his pain when she could do it within a second in the cave. And I don't believe that's something you should make a theory off. I just think that, that they fucked up with the continuity. You know what I mean? It was a poor
Make it a theory.
Okay, well, you can, but you know what I mean? Like, there's simple things like that I think that happens. It's a TV show. You know what I mean? So it's like they probably shouldn't have done that because it was pretty quick in the cave. She's like, well, I don't have time to turn your paint off. I'd be like, what the? No, turn my paint off. It takes 2 seconds.
On the same breath of continuity here, Aphon brings up the point about the explosive grenade in the cradle. I kept thinking that she was going to turn around and she was going to be strapped with C4, like some crazy amount of explosive nitro. And for that entire thing to go down with a single grenade, I'm just like, why do you have that magnitude of a grenade on you, right? Because grenades are specifically for like a tactical advantage to get people out of areas that they're bunkered down. Who are you trying to get out over that grenade? What? Like,
he's just trying to have sex. He's the sex guy.
Now we've all only seen it like once. I think that there was like a bunch of other grenades on him.
There must have been, yeah.
He pulled it, but that is kind of funny. You're right. That's like there's some on Netflix. I was watching some anime called The One Punch Hero.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's just like it's too much.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's just because they wanted to make it subtle. With the writers wanted to make it she was seductive, so it was subtle, so it wouldn't be so subtle and they couldn't show her bust in the way they could if she was covered in C4, and it would maybe look a little bit weird if he was covered in C4. I don't know. I mean just poor choice again. Yeah, I agree that, but then we have to go into explosions and get a fucking military expert on here to clarify what can be broke and what can. We don't know what those things are even made of, the hives, you know what I mean? It did look like glass, though. It did look like it's like a bowl in a fucking glass shop. So I do agree. Poor choice, but probably. I mean, it's confirmed it's broke, right? Are we going to argue, or are we going to confirm that Cradle's down?
I mean, that Cradle is down. I can't rule out that there's not. I don't know, because the Delos research group definitely didn't have a Cradle. Otherwise, they would have just put Delos's brain in that and not done what they did physically. So the only other option about bringing these people back, I think, comes to Peter's head might also have the Cradle backups.
Which Dolores has.
Which Dolores now has, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think she's going to do with that?
Yes, Axel, let's do this. Let's break this down simply. What we need to do, the information that Delos wants is in Dolores' hands now.
Well, that's not said though. In season 1, that's talked about. In this episode specifically, they said that it was just the key, right? Mm-hmm. Like the key to decipher another information, and she goes forth and is like, "No, or you wouldn't know what to do with this key." I'm like, I mean,
damn it, Hax! I wanted to make it simple. Can we make it simple?
Yeah, no, I have to say, I wanted that. I'm glad that you brought that up because I was getting confused. Why would the key, if it was just a key, right?
Yeah. Which
is in my understanding, would be like a password in a sense, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Why would it go into the MIB?
Yeah, why would it be so heavy? Like that it can only fit in. That's what I didn't understand. I thought that he held, when I was working on a theory that Abernathy held the data and they had lost the encryption key because Bernard took it when he was in that tent before they took Abernathy from him. Remember, it was on the pad and It said encryption, right? One-time use. So my understanding was that Bernard took the key, but Abernathy had the data that was so hefty
in the cortex.
Yeah, in the
which Dolores is holding in her hand, and she wouldn't have killed her. She would not have killed her father just for the key.
So but she has that, but she doesn't have the key, so she can't access that information.
But you want to know who's going to have that key? The key that's being passed to the MIB in the trailer.
I don't know. I mean,
Axel, am I right about that?
It definitely cannot only be the key, because even if it was a crazy super encrypted package that would take billions of years to uncrypt, or decrypt, you would realistically just need a hard drive, which we know that is out of the scope.
But she took the cortex. She has it in her hand. She has what they wanted. It's not the key.
Right.
They were trying to get the info. She definitely physically has the hard drive in her hand with the cortex, not the key.
See, here's the thing. I think it might be misdirection because I'm rewatching the scene now, and and it shows that they are addressing it as a key, and that you wouldn't know what to do with it. And she's like, "Nah, bitch, I know what to do with it." and so, but it comes back to, if this is only a key, well, then the key is dead. Well, how do we know that? Because it was a one-time encryption key that Bernard pressed the fucking button to. I mean, are they going to open this thing up and it's just going to be, oh shit, all our data is now encrypted with something that we don't know, because that's how fail-safe encryption works.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I think happened. I think Bernard has the key and they have the data. So what this interrogation of Bernard, what happened, blah, 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 is trying to somehow get that key from him.
That's what they've been trying to get out. It's the old, you got the key, I got the data, let's get together. You know what I mean? No, but I mean, I think, it's definitely that. But don't you think Ford would also have a key to this? I mean, we do see him pass a key card.
No, I mean, he could, because of what we know he does before the massacre, but it is definitely the Delos research key. I mean...
No, I agree with you on that, but I'm saying somebody else could obtain it.
Sure, certainly.
We're down a rabbit hole. I tried to make it simple, but it didn't work out. I was
my
like,
bad,
all right,
my
this is basic. No, it's, hey, we can't ignore truth just to act like we're right. I'm just trying to make it, people are asking in the chat to make it a little bit simple. We gotta look at this story. It's a TV show, so they're not gonna make it that confusing. I think they kind of are, but you know what I mean? What are we chasing? We got 3 episodes, guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and assume Hax doesn't have to sign off on this. That Dolores has the damn cortex, which is the hard drive. Bernard has the key. There's possibly another key out there that the MIB could obtain, and that would bring him and Dolores back together. And I believe that Emily is going to save the MIB, and I don't know where the fuck all the other hosts are going.
Dude, they're going to heaven, dude.
I guess. Cradle of the life. I don't know.
I like that's what I'm working with too. And I think that though I'm less sure about what Ford's intentions are now that he's kind of inside Bernard, and I'm unsure. He claims that he's letting Dolores do her own thing now. Right?
Yes.
But I don't know how much of that I believe. I mean, we see evidence of her kind of emotional awakening with her daddy. And I think that scene was a real pivotal scene, that first scene she had when she found him, where she kind of became softer. And then we see like the levels changing and Teddy becoming more of the Wyatt. But no, I think we're on the right path there. I don't know. Hax, what do you think Dolores is going to do with that? Because I know exactly. I thought she was going to destroy it, but I don't.
I thought she was going to destroy it. I expected her to just. I mean, I guess it doesn't make sense for her to destroy it. If it is a key to something in the Valley Beyond or gaining access to the Valley Beyond, then the weapon being in there, she wouldn't. I don't know.
It would make sense for, to assure their livelihood for her to keep it. I mean, you have something somebody wants, you want to obtain it and keep it away from them to have leverage. You don't go throwing it away, because then you're disposable as well.
Yeah. You had earlier in one of your videos, you had talked about like the Valley Beyond, and we had talked about on our show about kind of like this secret project must have like a big kind of secret lab where they're going to. Maybe that data can help her, because we have all those, a third of the hosts are that they found in the Dead Sea are virgin, right? They've not been wiped. They have a whole new control unit inside them.
Yes.
So there had to, I'm working on the idea that they transferred out, that the way out of the park is to kind of transfer out. Maybe it's through the internet in some way, a satellite in some way, their own data, or through another host, right?
Well,
And
they're covering their tracks. It would make sense. That's what I
yeah.
was, yeah, I agree with that. And it's also an interesting idea for a virgin host. Can they survive without the bootstrapping of consciousness?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that might just be subterfuge, you know?
Yeah, I think no, I agree with you on that. I just think it's an interesting thing, maybe because we have 5 seasons that'll come. I that was my same
Yeah, that's
thought right
interesting.
away, that they were trying to just cover their tracks. AU Pack Mule, who we had on, had a valid point as well, that it's a white, that it didn't have data, that it was just like a fresh computer.
Yeah.
So because there is that, he was right that they said it wasn't white.
It was virgin.
Yeah, so how'd they do that? So I think our third party that we're missing is the MIB. I think we're really ignoring that he's not going where Dolores and all them have gone. So I think that the missing third part is where he's going, and that's what we need to focus on.
I feel like they're going to the same place, and I think it's the place that he said he created that was the worst decision he made. And I think it's some kind of secret lab. And now that Dolores has this information, she can somehow use that so they can all become hybrids, or they can all transfer in some way. She's going to use that knowledge for the next step.
Yeah, that's what I like.
MIB could be a big part of it. You're right. Because look, we can't deny the fact that he was a part of this experiment the whole time.
That was his only thing.
Yeah,
he
created it. So,
yeah.
We keep on thinking that all these tech people know so much, but he must know a lot too. I mean, he was really running the park too.
Oh, don't get me into that, man. We talked about this on Twitter a little bit. I want to interview Jimmy William and see, because he either knows everything in the world. It's like he's just a good business guy. They never say any qualifications. He never mentions anything other than he's interested in stories. And then I don't know if he was just funding it, or if he is some type of Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. We don't know. The guy could be a fucking astrophysicist. We don't fucking know. You know what I mean? He's just the majority shareholder of Westworld, and he funded that project. And he obviously has we've seen foreshadowing that he's privy to knowledge. He's not a dummy. He probably has smarter people behind him, but he was keen on what he was doing. For my dumb 50s, so he's keen on what he's doing. But you get what I'm saying.
What it reminds me of is you could say in a way that kind of maybe William MIB was kind of Steve Jobs, and Ford was Woz.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
So there's always a debate on how much Steve Jobs was. He just a marketing guy, or did he actually have anything to do with the develop? There's always that kind of dilemma that goes.
So I think that could be better applied to Ford and Bernard. Ford definitely is knowledgeable, right? But he even admits that Arnold is.
That's true. True.
So I'm thinking that Bernard, or I'm sorry, that Arnold is Woz and Ford is Jobs, but.
Yeah, they push that pretty. I agree. They push that pretty heavy. I think it definitely can be applied to William as well, but the main push was on that. I think we just have to be ambiguous with William. It's just he's good at shooting people. He's good at doing science stuff and bioethics, and he likes stories. What did he go to school for? I don't know. Logan didn't think he was a threat. Dude, Logan thought he was a chump.
He went to school for badassery, dude. That's all he needs.
He's like, I need to go and do some Westworld type shit. They're like, what's Westworld? He's like, confusing as fuck for everybody. That's what it is.
It's like, you don't need to know about it. If you don't know, then you can't afford it.
We got a super chat, people. Atheist Bear, my favorite atheist. Cuddly little bear there, Atheist Bear. Arnold's greatest wish. I'm just reading this without reading it first, so this could be pretty risky. Arnold's greatest wish was Dolores' sentience. So even Ford hacks Bernard to help liberate hosts. Isn't it out of love for a fallen bro? What do you think about this? I think what he's bringing up, I think the ethical aspect of it. He takes control. This is what I was talking to Axel about earlier. The fingerprints all over, and how much does that devalue? Because we look at ourselves, Axel. When you agree, it's top of the food chain. We claimed it, we named it. Sentience is based off us. It's all our attributes.
Can you read that again? I'm not sure if I caught it.
Arnold's greatest wish was Dolores' sentience. So even when Ford hacks Bernard to help liberate the host, isn't it out of love for a fallen bro? So what he's inciting is that, he is trying to honor Arnold's wishes.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's true, but I also think that Ford sees a bigger picture, right? He's not as attached. That may have been his impetus, but as time went on and he lived in that park for so long, and then I think even in the process of creating Bernard, that idea evolved, but in somewhere still it's at the base, right?
Yeah.
And then also a guilt, perhaps, for what occurred.
A
Yeah.
feeling of remorse.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you guys think about even further? Do you think he wants to recreate, because it's kind of hinted at it. Hax, I want to get and yes, you're going to answer these tech questions. I want to get your information on, because it was brought up that he didn't have the information, to make Arnold. There was foreshadowing for the hybrid, right? At the beginning of this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we're going to see Arnold. I don't think we're going to see Bernard body, Arnold mind kind of thing. There's
one theory I wanted you can't do, you bastard.
Wait, I'm addressing it right now. What are you talking about?
No, I wanted it to be true. You're hating it.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm joking. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I do think that everything that Ford has done has been out of love for a lost brother. The integration of their lives and what they've worked on and what they've accomplished together is highlighted a lot, and maybe more of an interpersonal relationship needs to develop on screen for us to better understand it. But ultimately, they're very, very good friends. That when he died, it was a remorseful thing. But even with that, I do think that we're not going to see Arnold come back. It's not going to be Lazarus, the story of Lazarus and full swing that Arnold is now walking among us. I think that it simply comes back to Bernard is now an individual, and kind of taking a Arnold mind who's been through other experiences, who doesn't remember what Bernard has now remembered, kind of takes away a character. It would be like us losing Bernard and then insert Arnold, who by all description is a kind of recluse programmer, more so than Bernard, and is like images as they are, he would develop naturally in the interactions with Elsie and the interactions off that. So if they just went back to him being Arnold, it would be like a completely different character.
Yeah, I mean, I guess too, wouldn't it be disrespectful to bring him back, because he made his own decision to leave, to die. So it's kind of like a Bran Stark mind rape thing with Hodor. You know what I mean? Taking a little bit of control. I guess you have to. What do you think about that? You don't think there's a chance, Axel, from a storytelling sense?
What of Arnold coming back?
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but I agree a bit with what Hack's saying. It's someone new, and I think that's kind of what a lot of this story is about, right? Which is that we are our own stories, and the way we progress is to integrate those. And each moment we are what we were before, but we're something new and have the potential to do something completely different.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, he brings up the fire, the Alexandria, I believe he was referring to. Now, I want you to, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I want you to continue with this thought before I lose it. Axel, I'm sorry.
I agree. That was my thought, is that what is Dolores? Is she Dolores? Is she Wyatt? Is she the Dolores we've seen only since season 1? Or is she the Dolores that woke up and was put down again and again and again over a series of 30 years, right? Like, it's a progression.
She's everything.
She's all of those things and one, which, to get to your religion point, I mean, there's so much Buddhism inherent in this show.
Yes.
With the idea of rebirth and what that really means. And are you really something new, or are you something you're two things at once? It's living with contradiction inside that, which we all inherently are as human beings. But So insofar as Arnold coming back, or like literally a scene where Jeffrey Wright is like, I am Arnold, I don't is so viable. You know
No,
what I
he would have a name tag, Axel.
He
would
just
have a
he just
name
fucking
tag.
rips his shirt off, and there's a giant A in the middle.
It's yeah,
Right?
no,
Like a
I
shot,
love that though.
it creeps up and he just goes, I am Arnold. But
Yeah,
I think
I'm back.
that would
Yeah,
really flow with what we're learning here, right? Like
I agree.
he wouldn't be he's Bernard, he's not Bernard, he's not Arnold. I feel like by, you're saying there's 5-6 seasons of this show. By season 4, they might have new names. You know what I
don't
mean?
know. Yeah. We have
We
to
might
learn
not be
more
calling her
names.
Dolores. She might be Jane by then or
Oh
something.
God, please no.
Oh, hey, genderization, man. But I like what you're saying, Axel, because it is true. And I guess like me, kind of selfishly being a fanboy and wanting Arnold goes against. And fanboys were the worst for storytelling because they fuck up shows when they adhere to that. You know what I mean? Because you shouldn't bring it back. Because you're right, they're breaking down these walls. We're trying to look at people like and not judge them for like they have to be just like us, because that's what they're trying to prove. You know what I mean? That we need to not look at ourselves as these all-knowing, the best beings, and devalue and objectify other people, and also objectify ourselves. So that would be an instance of objectifying Arnold against his will right there. I really like, are you knowledgeable, not to put you on the spot, with the Buddhist aspect and all that? Because I am not,
I'm a
but it is
Buddhist,
such
man.
oh great, because that is such a heavy theme that I want to talk about, but I also am not qualified to talk about. How heavy is it?
I think as far as this show goes, it thematically, from the religious perspective, I do see more direct Judeo-Christian symbols. But I think what I see from this show is really that last scene where Ford is talking to Bernard, and he's talking about the kind of ideas of God and rebirth, and what's wrong, like you're talking about the ethics of this whole thing, and the way he just kind of tosses that off, and the whole rebirth aspect. There's a lot of it in there. That could be a whole podcast. But
It doesn't.
That's more, I don't know how much I relate that to like the showrunners trying to like.
I don't think they're pressing an agenda either
Yes,
way.
they're just using themes that we understand.
All of them. Doesn't Buddhism involve like a living creator? That's my question.
No,
Like,
no.
oh, it doesn't, because I thought that was
Buddhism
like
is
the
not
connection.
monotheistic.
Okay.
Buddha is not God. It was just a man. There's no higher power. There's just people.
I think that's the connection with Ford, is what I'm trying,
Yeah.
like with my loose grasp. That's what I'm trying to understand with my loose grasp on it. That's what I was trying to. So okay, great. I feel really good about myself. You guys can continue. I'm sorry, everybody that's watching. That was all for me. But no, I think that's really. I would love to come on a podcast and just learn, or just talk to you about that, because I know the themes are there, but I also don't have the time to learn a religion really quick. Let's look at the chat.
It can take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I got this Quantum Glory book that talks really about it all. It's really good.
It's also complicated because there's just as in any quote unquote religion, but Buddhism being one that's not monotheistic, there's a lot more adherents that look at it as a philosophy rather than a religion, you know? So that's,
which I think all religions are a philosophy. It's just,
but there's nothing where the Buddha said, like, I was sent down here from God. Like he said, like, there is no God, like, we're here.
They didn't go all out with it.
But there's a different thing, which is the whole karmic idea, which is inherent, which is a lot in this show too, right? Which is that they build up through the death and rebirth. What do the hosts build up on this karma and the decisions that they make? So yeah.
So do you think that it's going to hang on the question of, can the host develop without the bootstrapping of consciousness? Do you think we'll get to that point? Do you think we'll get to a point, and this is for you too, Hax, where it's not, I think we're already getting there, where it is human sympathizers. That's very important for this story, for it not to be host versus Delos. And I do believe we need that third party. I agree with you, Hax, and I like your theory. But I think it's going to, I don't know. It's kind of shot dead on the floor, but there's still parts of it that can work. There needs to be that third party. I agree. But, I think that, like, because that's the thing. Should we be questioning how to validate them? Should I even be saying that they have to do this for me to think that, okay, now you're okay? You know what I mean? I think that's kind of the question.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's the whole point. That's the season
Yep.
finale 10 speech about consciousness and there not being a level of acceptance or a benchmark you have to progress. It's like, and it's addressed in this episode as well. When he is using the memories of Arnold in relation to, like, he's basically mapping Arnold and the Bernard personality with every relation that he had with Dolores and every other host to kind of create this new person, and he addresses that it's not a fidelity test. It's not like humans are so obsessed with achieving an exact copy of yourself. It's just an art. It's creating what it is. So
You know what? I think the perfect kind of, I don't want to say a metaphor, but it was in the show, is that Delos was listening to a record player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Ford is trying to make like the album and they're trying to make
The music.
the digital copy.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right? Like he wants the pops in there.
Oh,
Well, that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
thing too.
Whereas
Is
they're
it
looking for this fidelity, which is perfect copy, right?
Yeah.
Data, ones and zeros. And that's the idea between the human and the replica, you know?
and Charlotte Hale does bring up that in case of a catastrophe, we need this. So do we think that this is they wanted the like? How do we take that? Like, what does she mean? This information will make them be able to live in the binary world, digital, metaphysical, whatever you want to call it. Like, how do you take that comment, that dialogue? Because
I
that's
thought
what she says.
I thought you just meant a catastrophe in the park.
Okay, yeah,
You
because
saw that
that could be
human
it.
catastrophe.
Yeah, like, oh,
Yeah.
it's just to back up the host. But I mean, that's probably not the real reason.
We don't know anything, but that's an interesting idea, right? Yeah, because we don't know anything what's going on in the real world.
Yeah. Very,
We
very
know
few at least.
a lot of extinction going on with animals. We know that. That's about it. And we know that the Chinese are selling Disney World like islands.
Those are pretty big islands, man. I was just thinking about that the other day. Like, there's valleys and terraformed mesas and stuff. These are pretty big islands.
Yes, pretty big.
And something I was interested in finding out is when you look at like the Delos globe, right? They show that on this last time they shown it, they show that side where the South China Sea is, and sure enough, there's no extra body of land there. But I really don't know. And as we get closer to wrapping this up, I do want to open it up for questions. I do think we've hit every mark as well, or in regards to the story that we witnessed. Is there anything that you guys want to highlight? And again, people that are looking for a specific question, post hashtag Westworld. And Justin, if you want to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we need to highlight. I think that we really covered, as far as we could, the complicated tech side, and I'm sure everybody's going to have great videos. And I really enjoyed. I know we're not done yet, but Axel, your insight, I love that you got what I was looking for. I wanted somebody. I was talking about this other day. I'm like, I have no idea about Buddhism whatsoever. I'm like, but I know there's a lot of connections. So I really do think that we should highlight the other scenes. I think, like, what do we think is going on with Maeve's daughter? They take her away. Vanessa Cole brought up a valid point. Just, if we look at it practically, that she really can't survive because they don't age, and that kid's gonna age if we look at it like that. So I think it's a high chance her daughter does die. And if we use the allegory of the cave, Maeve does need to get out of the shadows. You know what I mean? And she does need it. Not that we can't devalue her love for her daughter. That's fine. That's the whole point of the show. But she does probably, for the progression of the story, needs to start working to get out of the park.
Yeah, for
not die.
story purposes, what you're saying, just I totally agree with you, because I think that can lead Maeve to Ghost Nation or whatever is going on. I think that's the key to them, just for just pure meta story wise. It provides us with an opportunity for Sizemore to heal Maeve, right? Because we see him looking over there. Everybody left. They take one of those cars, whatever. They go find the daughter and Ghost Nation, and then we kind of get to the bottom of what Ghost Nation is doing, because we're going to be in episode 8. We gotta
wrap it up.
Yeah. I'm so excited, man.
that That was my last one I wanted to touch on. Thank you too. That was a good cap. That's a good nightcap on it right there.
This episode was the one that I was like, at the end of it, it was the most cliffhanger, right? It was like, oh my god, another week. Oh my god, another week. And before it was just like, okay, now I have stuff to analyze. But with this one, it was like, oh my god, I need to watch it right now. You know.
There's a lot to take in from this one, but I think I'm, you know, I like I said in the pre-show that I'm like, man, can they just give me some answers? And to tell you the truth, I'm pretty happy with the answers that I got, even though I'm still confused as hell. I think that we got some answers. They gave me at least a few.
There might have been answers to questions we didn't ask, but they're answers nonetheless.
Hey, but that's what William wanted to build. Answer to things.
That's true.
Yeah, there we go.
True. Full circle.
Full circle. We nailed it. We're done. Axel, any final notes?
Not really. Not really. I think we covered a lot. I mean, you know, I got to kind of think about it. We're going to be recording our deep dive for the Westworld TheoryCast on like Tuesday night. So I'm going to have to watch it again, definitely, and take notes. But yeah, there's a lot here, but I want to go back and watch that scene again where Bernard is kind of figuring out what they were using the park for. I thought that was really interesting because I think it says something a little bit deeper too. And also the part about using the cradle to like perfect Bernard. I like that idea because I'm kind of working on this idea of using of how the hybrids, how either the park or the cradle could help the hybrid, you know.
Well, I think isn't the cradle kind of like purgatory? You know what I mean? Like not in a bad way, but it's the in between. It's the limbo.
I mean, not to the people inside of it.
Yeah, it's kind of, but I don't really see it that way. I see it more as
they can work. Yeah, they can work off it, but it's like the limbo. I shouldn't say purgatory. It's like limbo.
It depends on your perception of reality, right?
Don't make my head explode. This whole damn show does. Yeah, you're right.
You know what's interesting is like the idea of them traversing to a new place, like a new land, a new world. You know, what's really weird is that we've seen another world now. You know, the cradle is in and of itself another world that you can exist in. So,
and that it goes back to you can't devalue it. The allegory of the cave. You can't say the people that see in the shadows aren't living a real life. And outside, all that. So it's very true, Hax. I love it when you get philosophical. You hate it, but you do it.
Hey, I got a tech.
I love it.
If Delos can create this cradle, who's to say that we're not going to find out that there is like more VR involved in this story?
That's
right?
True.
Like they don't back up anything for some reason, but hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, hey, Delos is a good businessman. If you can create that for the park, let's sell it to some kids who want to play a video game in it. Like the way they're rolling this out is so good because they really can take their time with it and develop the characters and give us these little fun mythology and tech things and build it up as they go along. And I don't know. I'm loving it. I'm loving Westworld.
Absolutely. Because it's about the characters. I mean, good writers write good characters, not situation. So they have a great situation and they have fantastic characters. And if you look at the terms and conditions, like a fucking nerd like me, it does say that you have to drop all VR devices before you go in. You can't bring any in. So they definitely exist.
Yeah.
So back to some of the questions here. What did Bernard download when he was trying to help Dolores heal her father?
That was the key, I think. Are they talking about when it was in the tent?
What did Bernard download when he was trying to help Dolores heal her father?
That was in the tent. Remember when the
yeah. I mean, you know, when I first watched that scene, I interpreted that as that now Bernard had that data, like he used that one-time encryption key to kind of take the data or examine the data. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I thought he just took the key. That's what I thought. I don't think he used the key. I think he took the key. I think it was like a separate, like he was able to separate it for some reason. You know, they had like some kind of security on the data and he took the key and then they have the data. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I follow you. It'd just be really weird if they were just like, okay, here's a computer. We're gonna give you this package that's really important, and then the key right next to it. So
I know. So
just pray to God it doesn't get intercepted or anything. Yeah.
Hey, well,
Yeah.
she did have Sizemore do it.
She did have
So
Sizemore do it.
let's
Yeah.
not forget, right? Like this is not. I mean, that's something to be said too. Like you brought up in your video, it's interesting that she had this schlub do it. You know what I mean? She has this like everything at her disposal, and that's who she gets to do it.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't really know. I do think that what it comes down to is, yeah, I don't know. I really do. Justin, do you have anything on that? Like,
I didn't hear the question. I'm jumping back in. What are we talking about?
oh, I'm sorry. That the scene where Bernard helps Dolores or helps her father. What kind of expands from this episode based on that, if anything?
I don't know what to take from that, to be honest. I mean, I'm looking at a few of the questions. I can't. Whatever you guys covered on that was good because I don't know what to take from that.
Well, I said I don't know, and Axel had a good answer, but
yeah. Well, we don't. This is before the dust settles. It's not settled yet, and
exactly.
we hopefully will know soon. I do see some nice ones. We do need to look at the disregard. It's funny that he didn't kill Elsie, right? Because he seems to constantly need to get rid of her. Ford. I saw some comments about that. Because he immediately gets Bernard to abandon her. Another thing that's interesting is I do think that this will be like how this season plays out, that Ford will be with Bernard to the end. But I think he knew the cradle would be destroyed with that one sexy hand grenade. And he will be gone. I think he's accepting that he'll be gone. This is his final voyage with Bernard. For anybody else. That's my take on it.
He makes reference to that in his conversation with Bernard, doesn't he? That now you'll truly be free.
Yes, I think that. Yeah, exactly.
I think he was making reference to them. He knew what was going to happen with them coming into the cradle.
How smart is this, guys? They're re-rolling almost the same sacrifice storyline, and it's still fucking awesome.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I wanted to bring something up in reference to the cradle and see if either of you remembered this. Didn't the tech guy, when he was talking to Carl, didn't he say that he didn't say that the whole cradle was gone? I think he used the third again, because didn't he use it twice in that conversation? Didn't he say, "Oh, that's the host backups"?
It was so the whole cradle was destroyed, but it was
third of the hosts.
A third of the hosts that now didn't have anything on their minds.
Okay.
I still feel like because the way. Yeah, so the way that like the sentence is structured, I still firmly believe that what he was saying is that now that the host storylines and all of that is destroyed, that it's 1/3. So meaning that there's 2 other thirds of like the research project or potentially like so I don't know, Elon Musk's space project or something could be another third.
Well, doesn't it seem like too that Abernathy's brain cortex, wherever we don't, let's not argue about where it's at, but that it obtains enough information to recreate the cradle?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, we kind of just guessing
all the data ever.
Science fiction.
What you need.
That's true. That's true, and that brings us to the question of whether or not that scene that we saw in the beginning, the very first episode of the season, as well as last week, was when Dolores was training Bernard, or was it when Dolores was training Bernard to be Bernard, or does it happen later?
Oh, I see.
You know the 5 whys. I throw the win. There's the win, why, how, what, whatever. And I always throw the win away in this storyline because we just don't know. It drives you insane.
The past, present, and the future are all the same anyway, right?
Exactly. Hey, there you go. It's all a circle of life. It's all fluid, people. I want to thank everybody for coming. We got about 130 people in here. That means the world. And I'm really looking forward to actually also having us, my beautiful loud voice on iTunes. I hope you, tone it down a little bit for me, give it a little bass to my voice, make me sound a little bit better. But I'm really looking forward to that. And I think we're going to be closing up here soon, unless anybody has anything. But I couldn't thank you enough, Axel. Wonderful guest host, and I'd love to have you back on. And I will obviously I will be linking the podcast in the information for this and tweeting it out like it's the clap.
I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, you all can check me out at Westworld TheoryCast. That's the DVR podcast network at dvrpodcast.com. And I will be putting the audio for this up on our feed, but you can also come back to the YouTube channel and give it a like and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is awesome. I will try to get back before the end of the season. If you'll have me, that will be awesome. My little boy who's sleeping in the room next door to me has been a good boy.
Hey,
Very
that's
good.
great
Very
on
good.
all ends. I couldn't be more happy. And thank you to my wonderful co-host, the esteemed Huffington Post HaxDogma.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. You can check me out at HaxDogma on Twitter as well as YouTube. Any YouTube has our Discord link. You're welcome to join and discuss with people in live, audio chat, your theories and stuff, and I'm in there as well with my buddies discussing. So yeah, join, subscribe, like, comment. Good to go.
Thank you guys so much, and we will see you soon. And you'll see some, you'll see the dust settle, and you'll see some pretty good theories coming out this week.
Oh yeah, most certainly. Hey, much love, everybody, and I'll see you again next time.